So, hey everyone, this is Chris Tim from Sundela Consulting. We are MSP consultants. We specialize in helping MSPs get the best out of their PSA and RMM tools. Today with me on the call, I have Matt Fox from TopLeft, who's going to walk us through the Topleft product and show us how it integrates into the PSA tool. So for those of you who don't know, TopLeft is a Kanban solution, and it's designed to help you streamline your ticketing and project process. And Matt's going to give us so much more information about what it does. So, hey, Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Good.
Happy to show your folks about Kanban and how it helps Autotak.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. And if you could just tell us a little bit about TopLeft, what the product is, how it works, and then maybe, take us through a little bit of a demo just so we can see how it integrates and how an MSP could use it.
Sure. So TopLeft came out of our own MSP, actually, 4, maybe even 5 years ago. We had an MSP called Kirchhoff Technologies, a fairly established kind of medium-sized MSP near Vancouver in Canada. And we were ConnectWise users, and we were always losing track of our work. Because if you're at all familiar, for those who are familiar with Autotask and ConnectWise, they're pretty good at keeping track of all the work that's going on, tickets and projects and so on. Like, they're good at storing the data about it, but they're fairly weak at just visualizing it, showing it to you in a way that's easy to understand. It's always just in these big tables, reports that you kind of gotta, you gotta get to the right report. You gotta closely look at all the fields to figure out, okay, what's the important stuff here. Or you're looking, if it's project, you're looking at this work breakdown structure, and it's not at all clear, which tickets are progressing, which ones are forgotten about, who's assigned, like, do certain team members have too much work and things like that. So the data is all there, but the PSAs don't display it very well in a way that makes it easy to understand. So we were suffering from this, tickets are forgotten about, projects are just dragging on and on and on and on. We don't know what's going on. And so we knew about Kanban boards, right? Which is something that has actually been around for a while. It hasn't really caught on in IT until recently. But basically, it's like just a board, the main thing, and I'll show you an example.
Is that like that's like a Trello type?
Yeah, exactly.
Thing, right? Yeah.
Yes. So Trello is probably the best known example of a Kanban board, like a software Kanban board. But of course, you don't need software. You can do this with sticky notes on a wall if you want. The point is, you got the columns from left to right. The columns represent the stages in your work. If you imagine, the life cycle of a ticket, for example. It starts out in like new, it goes to some triage, it gets assigned, maybe it is waiting on the customer for a while, and finally it's done, So basically we represent stuff visually, because people understand stuff better when it's made visual. And so we knew Trello. There's other software now, like Asana, Jira, things like that all have Microsoft Planner. It's another good example. So there's lots of examples of software Kanban boards now, but none of them integrate directly with ConnectWise or Autotask. Okay, so that we could have used that, but we're like, the data is there. Let's build something that gives us the visualization without having us to copy the data back and forth between these different systems. So that's how our TopLeft Kanban boards started for us at our own MSP, and we still continue to use it today, and now we're offering it to many MSPs all over the world who are using ConnectWise or Autotask and have the same sort of problems.
Okay, and this is so you mentioned this is something you custom built. So this isn't a Trello integration or an Asana integration. This is actually something you guys actually built out of the box.
Yeah. So it's more akin. Well, it's a plugin basically for ConnectWise or Autotask. So if you think of it as like a IT Glue or Time Zest or whatever, it's equivalent to that in that it uses the APIs in the PSA, grabs the data out, shows it in a new way. And what that means is that we can integrate much more closely than we ever could if you were going to go and like build your own integration to Trello or Planner or whatever. Like as an example, you can actually enter your time on a ticket in these Kanban boards, and I can show that in a bit, but it's very, very close integration, only for MSPs, only for ConnectWise and Autotask, very specialized.
Okay, that's cool. So and so you say it's for tickets and projects. Is there anything else you do with it? Do you do sort of the account side if somebody wanted to run this through opportunities? You know, and if not, is there any kind of you know, is that something that you guys are going to do in the future, or how does it work?
Yeah. So when we plug into ConnectWise, then we offer support for the opportunities. So you can have, you know, the key stages of your sales workflow and represent the opportunities in the right stage, understand what's going on. That works for ConnectWise already. And it is going to come for Autotask. We don't support that just yet, but we are planning to in the near-ish future, not in the next month or two, but it is fairly high on our roadmap.
Okay. And in terms of the, so why would an MSP sort of use a Kanban board or a tool like Topleft and not just do stuff directly in their PSA tool?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is, first of all, that it's just easier to understand what's going on. You know, like I had said before, if you're doing this in your PSA, probably you're spending a lot of time looking at these, you know, reports, just tables. Like it may as well be Excel, and it doesn't really help you understand what's the important bits that you need to know about to keep your work moving forward. Like you're always searching for it. Like if you know you want to look for tickets that haven't been touched in 7 days, for example, you got to go to the right report to find that, and you got to find the right column and the right and like sort it in the right way. It just doesn't make it very easy to do that sort of thing. Okay, so it's time consuming, and it's because it's time consuming, probably just doesn't get done. You know, it's got to be easy. So that's one reason, is that Kanban makes it easy to do all this stuff because it's one tool, and it's just showing you all the important stuff all at once in a way that's just much easier to understand. The second thing is that it's a good communications tool for your whole team. So, you know, your manager is going to be looking at one view, you know, or dispatcher, but the engineers are also looking at the same view. So if, you know, we're highlighting that a certain ticket hasn't been touched in 10 days, for example, you know, manager is going to want to know about that, but it's even better if the engineers can see that. And so, you know, once the company has been using Kanban for a little while, they've gotten into the practice of using it, you end up that the manager doesn't even, like that case doesn't even happen necessarily, that there's a ticket that hasn't been touched in 10 days, because the engineers can see the same thing and they can deal with these problems themselves, because again, it's easy for them to see the problem, and they tend to stop it before it happens. You know, they follow up at the right time, or they just keep the data up to date. You know, there's not tickets that are already done, but they're sitting in progress or waiting or whatever, because it's easy to see, for example, you know, it's easy to see the things that the tickets that are in progress. It's shown in the Kanban board very clearly. And if they recognize that there's something that's incorrect, you know, a ticket that is actually complete, but it says it's in progress, all you got to do is like drag and drop. You know, you can fix it immediately. So it's easier to use, which means that the data tends to be more accurate because it's easy to fix it when it's not.
Okay, and you talk about tickets that are, you know, in the various statuses. So in Topleft, is this something that, you know, as an engineer, I can actually create a ticket in it, or does the ticket have to still be created in the PSA tool first, and then, you know, and then Kanban picks it up, or Topleft picks it up, or is it something that, you know, I don't even have to go into my PSA tool to do anything?
Yeah, so at the moment, you're going to create the tickets in the PSA tool. You can't create those tickets within Kanban just yet. But one of our focuses for this quarter that we're in right now is making those sorts of use cases possible. So one thing that we have coming up right now, in fact, part of it is a becoming available now is editing the tickets within Kanban, changing the titles and budgets and due dates and so on. And creating those tickets is something that we plan to offer in this quarter as well. So that's coming up. And the whole point of it, like you said, is that you can spend more time in the fast and easy to use tool in Kanban rather than having to go back to the PSA to do some of those things.
Okay. And on the PSA tools, you've mentioned two of them, ConnectWise and Autotask. Are those the only two that you're integrating with at the moment? And if so, are there plans to integrate with any of the others?
Yeah, so those are the two we integrate with right now. Now, if you go to our website, topleft.team, there's right today, there is a link at the top that says Synchro MSP. And that's because we were collecting basically expressions of interest for customers who are using Synchro and who would want to be able to have Kanban boards with that. So Synchro customers, absolutely, we'd love to hear from you. Head over there and put your name in the form there so we can, so we know how much interest there is. For us, that's going to be the number 3 PSA to support, I would expect.
Okay. Cool. No, that sounds really cool. I mean, do you want to give us a very quick sort of rundown of the product, show us what it can do? Because I think it's going to be a lot easier if people can actually see what it's doing and see how it works. So do you want to go through that?
Absolutely. So here is an example of a Topleft Kanban board. This one is connected into an Autotask instance, and you can see the basics are, it's a pretty typical Kanban board. These columns here represent the key stages in the work. So you can see that it's kind of tracking the life cycle of a ticket from new, ready. Typically you see tickets go from ready to in progress. If they get stuck on something, it might go back to waiting. Finally, they'd go over to complete. Now, these columns are totally configurable. Like, these are not there's no standard columns. Of course, we have some recommendations, but you can do whatever you want. You can have as many columns as you want, give them whatever names you want. And the key thing is that the columns map into the ticket statuses. So, based on the status that a ticket is in and how the statuses are mapped to those columns, that's what will define which column a ticket appears in. So that makes it really easy to see, even just at a glance, what's going on with my work here. In a real world environment, you probably don't want to have 15 new tickets because you're probably, you should have some sort of triage process that fairly quickly moves those over into like a ready or assigned status, something like that. So, you can see here just at a glance with a large number of tickets in the new column, maybe there's some triage work to do. I can see, okay, 24 in the ready column. Depending on your size of your team, that might be too many, might be too few. What we got for in progress, you can see is 54 tickets in progress. Again, depending on the size of the team, that might be way too many, or it might be fine. But you can see, based on the number of tickets in the columns, is your work kind of getting to a certain point and then stalling, which is not an easy question to answer in ConnectWise or Autotask, but in Kanban boards, it can make that pretty straightforward to understand. And now looking at the individual cards here, each of these cards represents a ticket, in this example, out of Autotask. And all of the information comes straight out of Autotask. There's no double entry of any data. And you can see it's just the key data is highlighted here, and you don't have to go and review tables of data really closely or work breakdown structures or whatever, because the key stuff is highlighted, like the title, like the company. Like here we can see who's assigned to the ticket. Even things like what status it's in and how long it's been there is kind of a key. That's a pretty key thing to know. And your PSAs make it difficult to see that sort of thing. You can see actually here that a lot of these tickets are highlighted because they haven't changed. What I mean is this field here, the length of time they've been in that status, it's highlighted because we can set a threshold on the column to say, okay, once it's been in progress for more than 3 days, for example, then highlight that field in red, because if if it's been there for 3 days, that's stalled now. We want to know about that. We want to, so we can focus on that and figure out whatever the problem is and keep that stuff moving forward.
Can we? Sorry, I was just going to ask. So on that, when you talked about it's been in that status for a particular length of time, can that be kind of, besides just the colors, can that be flagged or maybe moved to a different status or something, or put in a different column for somebody to look at tickets that have not been actioned for a particular length of time?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple differences between our Autotask and ConnectWise side. On the we are going to be implementing this all, not quite at the same level as the ConnectWise side. But on ConnectWise, you can highlight a ticket like that and give it a different background color and emphasize it in a greater way. You know, if this sort of red tag isn't quite enough, you can emphasize that ticket more. There's also a number of conditions that you can use in this kind of rules engine that can tag tickets in certain ways. In terms of moving it to another status under certain conditions, that's not something that we've tried to solve, because the PSAs actually have decent support for that sort of thing in their own workflows, both ConnectWise and Autotask. And because we just show the data that you already have in ConnectWise or Autotask, you can just continue to use those workflow automations. In fact, whatever you've already set up is going to continue to work. If you have a trigger that changes a ticket to a different status, it's going to continue to run, and we get that change. And so it's whatever you've already set up is going to continue to work, which could, depending on how you've set it up, could result in tickets moving between the columns if they change the status. Okay. One example is that we see from time to time is if a customer responds, it gets bumped to a different status. That's kind of a common one. And so if you did want to have a special place to show tickets that were in the customer responded status, you could pretty easily set that up with a new column. You map that customer responded status to it, and now you've got one column where you see all of those tickets.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that looks really good. I can see what you mean. That makes it so much easier for for anyone to kind of visually see what's happening on the system. Nicely color coded, and then I guess you can just drag those cards from one to the other. So, and that's the thing. If I drag something from the new to say the in progress or what have you, then I'm assuming that's just going to go into the PSA, whichever PSA it is, and just change the status accordingly.
That's right. So it's all drag and drop. It's not just a visualization tool, but it's actually interactive. You can drag and drop just like it is. So you can see it's been updated now. It's in the in progress status. And if we went back to Autotask to look at that ticket, it would reflect that it's now in the in progress status already. So it makes it easy to adopt, because everything that you're already doing is just going to continue to work. Any workflows and patterns you've got set up in your PSA, it's going to continue to work because we're just showing you the exact same data. So, if you continue to work out of Autotask, it's going to show that status. It's just a lot easier to do here in Topleft. So in addition to being able to drag between the columns here, you can actually drag up and down within a column. And if you're using like agile practices and Kanban practices, you can use that as a way to communicate in your team what is the priority of these tickets. So for example, a dispatcher could keep their eye on the tickets that are in the ready status and make sure that any emergency ones, which are kind of maybe indicated by the color of the left bar here, any of those emergency tickets, they stay at the top. That the being at the top means that they're their highest priority, which means that technicians, when they're ready to take on new work, they come to the top of this column here. And that's something that ConnectWise and Autotask aren't very good at indicating. Typically with that, you would need to actually put it into somebody's calendar and order them properly in the calendar. And that can be quite a bit of work to do even once, but it's fragile. And so when you're using that kind of pattern, you tend to have to reschedule a lot of stuff. And so it's actually quite time consuming for a dispatcher, but this is a lot more flexible and a lot easier to handle.
Okay. So just a question around this then, in terms of how this works for an engineer. Do you have a mobile app that somebody could use for this as well, or is it just purely a web-based application?
It's a web-based application, but we have done work to make sure that it's as easy to use as possible within a mobile browser. So it should be a decent experience in a mobile browser.
Okay, so there's no native app on the app stores or anything like that.
No, but you just
is
log
there any
in
plans to
as you
do
put it on
that,
the
or
desktop. Maybe, and it's something that we're going to keep in mind. We are eyeing kind of some fairly significant improvements to how the app is designed, and we're going to try to keep that in mind as we do that, to consider, okay, how could we make sure that once we're done this restructuring of the application as a whole, that we have the right foundation to make it easy to make a web app. Because that does we do hear requests like that from time to time, but it's actually not that common.
Okay. That's cool. And so what you're showing here is tickets, and you're showing the service desk. So, and you mentioned about this, using the projects in Autotask as well. So is it going to show the entire project as well as all the tasks, or does it just show the tasks, or can you kind of have a combination of both?
Yeah, so let me show you what we can do for projects. Now we can show all the project tasks. Now here's a good example. This really helps project managers. We have people coming to us all the time frustrated with their project management modules, both in ConnectWise and Autotask. What they do is they spend a lot of time, the model is kind of, and the model is like this because this is what the PSA support, is that they choose a project, one of their many projects, they pick one to manage. So, you go to the project list, you click into it, you see the details on the project, you do some stuff, you kind of zoom back out to your list of projects, you choose another one, you zoom in, you do the work, you go back out and you do the next one. So that's what the PSAs support, but it's not how project managers and MSPs actually work, because everybody's got multiple projects on the go all at one time, right? MSPs don't do, the typical ones that we work with, they don't do $1 million projects that 20 people are working on, just managing a single project at a time. They're managing many kind of small and medium-sized projects. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
multiple projects.
Yeah. So what we really need is a view where we can see the details of multiple projects all at once, and that's this view here. So now we're looking at the project tasks in Autotask terms. And we put them in what we call swim lanes. So you can see that there's this horizontal group here. And what it's doing is it's grouping all the tasks from a single project into the one swim lane, we call it. So okay. In practice, what this is each project that's ongoing right now gets an area here. And within that, it shows the individual tasks. Okay, and so we have one swim lane here for each of the ongoing projects. And there's a lot of ways to filter this stuff. So if you've got, like, I don't know, maybe you've got multiple larger MSP might have different project teams. Well, you can filter the boards so that you just see the projects for that team. Like, there's a variety of ways to do that. But this is what can save a project manager a lot of time, by being able to see the details of multiple projects at once. And same things work. You can drag and drop tickets within between the different columns to do some planning. You can do that just to keep things up to date. The engineers can use this as well. There is a way that for example, someone can edit this board just to show their own tickets. So I can demonstrate that here. So if I am a project engineer, for example, I'm logged in here as Pamela, and if I want to say, just show me the tickets that I'm assigned to, then I can pretty easily do this. And now I've got a good view that's showing me the things that I'm responsible for in the project side.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I really like that view. I think, and like you said, one of the big problems with the PSAs is that they they design very much for you to work on a project and then, almost finish that project and then work on the next one. Or if you are working on multiple ones, you can only see whatever's happening with that particular project at any time. So this is really good. That gives you the ability to not just see the multiple projects, but actually see the multiple tasks within each one of those projects as well.
Yeah. And this one, as an example, is showing some features here that are useful for planning. So you can see at a variety of levels here, we're showing summaries of the estimated hours for these tasks. So you can see actually both the number of hours that are actually logged on that, as well as the total budget hours. So you can see this, this number is showing you for the entire board right now, the tickets that we see. We can see it within each swim lane here. So for this particular project, the tickets we see here sum up to 10 hours estimated total. And we can see it for each column as well. So because I don't have an example here that has multiple tasks within it, but if I did, it would add them all together and show it here. So what this allows us to do is do some better planning. You could see if a certain project has a lot of budgeted hours in a certain column. For example, we could compare not just the number of tickets between these two projects, right? Because maybe one is a project that by its nature, the tickets are a lot bigger, and one project has tickets that are just very simple tickets, a low number of hours on them. And so instead, for example, maybe we could have a project that both had 3 tickets in the waiting status right now, or ready, or whatever status it might be. And but we could look here and see, okay, actually this one has 40 hours in these 3 tickets estimated versus this one that just has 5 or 10. And when it adds it up for us, then we have a lot better knowledge about what's actually going on with these projects. We can do the same thing here. Let me show you an example that's adjusts how the swim lanes work. These are, again, this is a swim lane board, but we're showing, we're grouping it in a different way. Now we're grouping it by who's assigned to these tickets. Okay, so this gives us a lot of insight into how things are actually working in our team. And it's not just useful for projects, but this is very useful for service teams as well. And you can do the exact same thing when you're looking at the service tickets. So we can see here tickets that are unassigned. That's pretty useful to know about. What you typically have is that tickets in your new status here are unassigned. But for example, when they're in progress, they shouldn't be unassigned. So this is already, even just this swim lane gives us some useful information about what's happening either in our project or our service team. And then we have swim lanes for each member of the team. And this is where we can see, how is the work balanced in our team? Do we have we kind of given an even amount of work to all of our different engineers, which is kind of the ideal way to do it? Then you don't have someone who's super busy and beginning to delay some of the work because they're so busy, while other engineers are not busy enough. Now you can start to see that sort of thing, which again, something that the PSAs aren't very good at explaining. But here it becomes quite apparent. For example, we can pretty easily see here that Gary has 9 tickets in progress. We can even see, the sum of the worked hours, 4 hours worked on all these tickets so far, compared to Michael here, who's only got 1, and which doesn't even have any time logged on it. So we can see very clearly here, Gary's got too much work. Most likely is because he's the senior engineer. He's kind of the expert on everything, so that's why he tends to get more work. But now he's become the bottleneck in the team. Okay, so anything that has to go through Gary is going to go slow, meaning any of the sophisticated and difficult stuff gets slowed down in the team. And so if we can start to make some changes in our team, like document certain things better so that a junior person can do them, or actually get some better training for the junior engineers, then we can start to get them more work, take some work away from Gary. And then that's going to because Gary's the bottleneck right now, the only way to make the whole team go faster is to fix the one bottleneck. So that's, can we you can identify that and then fix it.
Yeah. So in terms of the, where you see there, like you say, Gary's got more tickets. I'm assuming that's obviously the same project. So could we just move something from Gary to Michael and then have it assigned to Michael at that point. So is that?
Yeah. So
yeah.
In a view like this, if that's your solution, you can say, you know what, this particular ticket, Gary does not need to be the one doing that. I know that this is something Michael can do. Then you're right. All you got to do is drag it up there. In Autotask,
Nice.
we also need to set a role. So we can say, okay, what's the role here? And it's just going to go out. It's going to pull Gary off that ticket and add Michael onto that ticket. Very easy to fix that.
That's awesome. That's really nice and quick. I really like that approach, and I think that's going to, for anyone working with projects, on Autotask or on ConnectWise, I mean, that's an absolute game changer. I think in terms of the way those that specific thing. I mean, just even that on its own is brilliant. That you can, you can have that visual representation of what's going on, and then just move something over into a different user and have it automatically assigned to them. Yeah,
you can fix that quite quick. I mean, and again, technicians can do this sort of thing too. Like, it doesn't have to be just a manager's job, but if a couple technicians got together and they wanted to work through this sort of thing themselves, then they can do the exact same thing. So it can save them time as well. In fact, not too long ago, I talked to a customer. I was amused that he did this, but I'm happy that he wanted to do this exercise. He had a project in his PSA and he needed to make changes to about 50 tickets, I think he said. And so he went, like, they were in the wrong statuses and maybe assigned to the wrong people and so on. So he started his stopwatch. He went into the PSA and made all these changes. It took him about 45 minutes to make these changes. Then he undid everything that he did. He kind of reset it, this project. And then he made all the same changes in TopLeft. And he said it took him 13 minutes to do that. Wow. So, even just in terms of the simple changes, assigning somebody or fixing the status of a ticket is just much, much faster.
Absolutely. And now I notice you've been going into a different board for tickets and project tasks and what have you. So can you kind of mix and match these? Can you have one board that has project tasks and tickets on it, or is that not something that it does at the moment?
Yeah, good question. So again, this is one of the differences a little bit between how we connect to ConnectWise and Autotask. So in ConnectWise, you can show service and project tickets together. Of course, it's very useful because a lot of MSPs, until they grow to a larger MSP, the fact is that people are working on both service, help desk, and project stuff. So it's very useful to show them together. Now, on the Autotask side, we don't support that just yet. You can have one Kanban board to show the service work and one or more Kanban boards to show the project work. That is something that we're going to do, though. Again, that's something that's pretty close to the top of our roadmap because it's a very useful thing, and Autotask folks want to be able to do this for sure.
Absolutely. That's really cool. I mean, Matt, I think we can spend hours going through this, and I'm sure there's a huge amount more that we can do. But I mean, what you've shown us there is absolutely fantastic, and I think anyone watching this video on YouTube, I think would agree that this is absolutely going to it's a massive game changer. I think it's just going to change the way that MSPs work and make them a lot more efficient, and certainly streamline both the ticketing and the project process. So
yeah, and it really can streamline the technician's day as well. I didn't even show you this last couple of things, but we have ways to enter the time. So this is something that keeps the engineers working pretty efficiently as well, when they can just enter their time and their notes on these tickets that they're working straight from TopLeft, including using a timer.
Oh wow! Yeah, I was going to say, I see you've got the stop. That's cool as well. So really, it is that pretty much once the ticket is created in Autotask or ConnectWise, you don't really need to go back into the PSA tool and do anything in there. You can pretty much do the majority of it through TopLeft.
Yeah, and so if you do have, everybody has the email connector, right? So any tickets that come straight in from the email connector, maybe you don't even need to go into the PSA at all for that, because they are created automatically. And even if they're not, they come in from the phone or just project tickets. Again, that's something that we're planning to implement fairly soon.
So, and actually that brings up another question then. So, we're using TopLeft here and we're looking at this view. Now, what happens if I wanted to go in and have a look at one of those tickets in the PSA, or in this case, Autotask? Is there an easy way for me to just click on something and go straight in and look at the ticket directly in Autotask?
Yeah, you just click on the title here.
Okay, cool.
Easier, one click.
Okay, and that just opens it up. Awesome. Okay. That's really cool. No, I think that's awesome, Matt. There's some really, really good stuff in here. And I definitely think this is going to get some people to, to really think about it and to contact you guys and hopefully, get some demos from you and hopefully get this product implemented in their business. So that's been really cool. So just a quick, just as we sort of wrap this up, if anybody wanted to get in touch with TopLeft or wanted to speak to you directly, what's the best way that somebody can do that?
Yeah, good question. So just go to the website, topleft.team. So there's more information about the product here, as well as link to get a demo. So that would be the first thing to do. After you do the demo, then we offer a couple of different options for a trial. We have a 2-week free trial that you can get access to after a demo. We also have one I'll just mention briefly is it kind of goes with this new program we've introduced called the Completed Ticket Challenge. So that's for folks who kind of feel like this, like this technician here. He can't hardly work because he's just got so much work, right? We know a lot of MSPs feel like that from time to time, and that's where we came from. And so now we have a 3-week program where you get email 4 days a week. You get emails that explain the specific steps that you can implement, in a service or project team to begin handling this. Basically, better ways to work to avoid feeling like this, that you're just kind of running around like a chicken with your head cut off. So you get email and video content 4 days a week about that. Then on Friday, there's a call with all the other MSPs doing the project, doing this program at the same time. So there's a community element, and that's helped a number of MSPs really cut down the number of tickets that they have ongoing at any one time. That's kind of the whole point, is to get in the habit of completing tickets before you start new tickets to avoid being like this guy here. So that with that trial, it's a 3 weeks program. So we extend the trial out to 4 weeks. It's $199 US, probably worthwhile price just for the content, but it doubles the length of the trial. So those are the 2 trial options that we have to get started. So awesome. Very easy, no commitment necessarily, and yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I'll absolutely make sure that that we get some some information below in the notes. So if anyone wants to leverage that offer, we'll make sure we get it in there, and they can contact you for more information. So no, that's been really cool, Matt. I really appreciate that. So if you want to see any more of these kind of videos, or you want to hear from any other particular vendors, let us know. Hit the subscribe button below, and we'd love to hear from you. So thanks everyone for watching, and thanks, Matt, for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Thanks.